Simon and Paul.
It is 4 o'clock now.
Which one do you want to start with, Alex?
I'm happy either way. On the agenda it says IT support arrangements.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Look happy, won't you? We are chorus though, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Give it 3 more minutes, we'll start to 5 past. It's not going to really help in terms of some reactions, unfortunately. Not filming, are you, at the moment? You are.
I get told off if I don't start on time.
Shall we start and try and make whatever progress we can
Yes.
in the absence of anybody else, if that's all right? Okay. Thank you, Mark, Peter, and Christina for being in the room. So this is the second meeting of the IT and Digital Communications Working Group. So, in terms of apologies, I've only had one actual apology, which is from the town clerk herself. We are missing 3 people today, which might impact a little bit about how we progress this, particularly in light of the finance and general purposes committee. If you go through the mayor parlour, should we guess? What do you think, Simon? Excellent. Yes, it was made very clear at the Finance and General Purposes committee meeting on Monday that there's expectations that we get on and do stuff quickly. I did explain doing it quickly is right, but also be done properly. So we're not going to take any shortcuts, but we'll do whatever we can at the fastest pace possible is my view. Everybody else is in agreement?
Yeah.
Unless people want to do shortcuts.
No, that's never a good idea.
Not particularly with procurement.
Yeah. No, for me, we should do things as in the natural time frame using the earliest start date. So
Yeah.
if something can be started, let's start it.
Yeah.
And let's not wait to the latest start date, because
Yeah.
that then puts things on the critical
Yeah.
path.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, so as I say, one set of apologies. We might have somebody else just about to join us. I'll just hold on, because obviously the declarations of interest is next. No? Okay. So on the basis of there's 3 of us in the room, any interests to declare in terms of this
No.
meeting?
No.
No. Okay. Minutes from the last meeting.
I've read the minutes and I'm happy with them, and I propose that we accept them as a true and accurate record.
I second that proposal.
Thank you very much. There were a few actions within those minutes. Some of those we're not going to be able to actually check progress because they're for people outside this room. So a few were with the town clerk. One was with Mayor Paul Carter. But there are 1 or 2 that we can clear here today, I believe.
Okay.
So if we can just pick those off. And what I will be doing after this meeting, I'm going to separately keep an action log, draw them out from each meeting,
Yeah.
so it makes it a lot easier for us and transparent about what actions we've got,
Yeah.
who's got them, and where they're up to.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
happy with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's a good working practice that should be applied to all works and boards.
Yeah. Sorry if anybody's watching online. We're opening doors and shutting them regularly. Yeah, no, it's not good, Simon. Okay, I've just said we'll light a couple of people, so we'll do what we can.
Yeah.
Hard line finish at 5:30 because of the public meeting tonight. I've taken apologies from the town clerk, but I'm not aware of regards Paul Carter nor Karen, who was invited particularly to this meeting. Just on declarations of interest, do you have any interest? Yeah. Excellent, good. In terms of minutes, a few actually are with people who aren't here, so I'm not able to clear those today. We've just agreed the minutes. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to pick up regards to minutes from the last meeting.
No, I think I've just brought my water bottle up and I can't think where I put it. Must be somewhere on the way back in the
You sure?
It's
definitely
Try the downstairs door, try there, then I had to go round.
Okay, so moving on swiftly. I fed back. Were you at the finance and
No.
So one of the things that was impressed on us as a working group is they want to see us doing things quickly. Well, I did say yes, we will do things quickly, but we'll also do them correctly. Okay. So one of the actions that we had from the previous meeting was about me raising at the committee meeting the need for a business continuity plan. That was understood and it was taken into the committee as an action for them to progress. So that was a good result. It's much wider than IT and it will be looked at over the coming weeks. Simon, you were to consider how communication exchange might work, and I think you did something around that. Are you satisfied you got to where you need to?
Not really.
No.
Communication exchange. I mean, basically, I raised the idea of WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And David Shaw rather shot it down. Didn't say why.
No.
It was just, oh no, you can't use that. But you have to say more than, otherwise it's meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
Like a reason for it. Yes, because, for example, I've proposed WhatsApp. It's the communication is secure. It has many advantages in that you have a known list of users, and I don't know what the problem is.
No.
For him to come up with, it's really insecure, etc., etc.
It's not an answer, is it?
No, it's not an answer. So I would, if there's possible Microsoft Teams, I don't know Teams really. I've used it, but I don't know it.
So shall I leave this action open for you to do between now and maybe the next meeting, just to do a bit of
Yes, I can
investigation?
Yes.
Thank you. The further action that can be responded to is one that I and you, Simon, and the town clerk took ownership for, which was meeting with David Shaw.
Yes.
We did that. I gave a report into the committee meeting on Monday. Sorry, that just prompts a question. Did I share with the working group the outcome from that meeting?
I've had the copy of those
No,
notes. Yeah, me too.
Excellent.
Right.
Right. Okay. We're just part way through the minutes from the last meeting. Actions. Did you have any comments at all, Paul? Sorry, if
Not on the minutes, no. I'll go through those, thank you.
There was one action that was against your name, which was relating to writing to Councillor Dan Friend regards Facebook ownership.
Oh,
Has
that's
that
right.
happened yet?
Yeah, no, I had a word with him the other day
Yeah.
and he said he would contact me about that. So when I was raising the flag at deal,
Yes.
he said, so I've just given him like 24 hours to get through, but if he doesn't come back on that, then I will be approaching
Okay.
him. That's okay.
So spoken but not yet responded.
No.
Okay. And I was just saying we're going to have a hard line finish at 5:30 this
Oh,
evening.
good, thank you.
Okay. So the next item that was out of the previous meeting, the terms of reference, I amended those. A copy was given to everybody for this meeting. Everybody okay with what?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can take those as baseline now.
Yeah.
Okay, so signed off. Excellent. Thank you. Sorry, I'm taking minutes as I go along, so there are a few pauses as we progress. So that just really leaves the main bulk of this meeting, which is to focus on user requirements for the IT support services and the website provision. So they are separate, with the intention of going to a tendering exercise for each. Paul, I mentioned that on Monday we got challenged to do things quickly, if you remember. And I fed back that yes, we will do that as best we can, but we'll also do it properly.
Probably that's correct.
Okay. So I did some homework around some user requirements for both. If anybody else has, please feed them in, declare them now. But I've on the television, Peter's going to load up the two sets I've done. They are a starter. If anybody wants to add more in, that would be brilliant. But I have used various reference points for those user requirements. I haven't sort of sat down in a dark room with other sources of information, so I have drawn from other places.
Okay, well, you asked if anybody else has done anything.
Yes,
I've
yeah.
had the pleasure
Brilliant.
of sitting in a dark room
Have you?
with a piece of paper. And so
Fantastic.
I've scrawled a couple of
Okay.
high-level things
Yep.
for the website and for the service.
Good.
So those are really, I think if we just use them as a checklist, and I'll
Yes.
tick them off and
Yeah.
then, you know, do a kind of gap
That'd be
analysis of
So do we want to?
Also,
Yeah, the viewers are fantastic. We'll talk about what happens after this, because I do want to move to the next stage out of this meeting rather than pause, because we can then start looking at tendering preparation.
Exactly.
So Peter's just going to load up the two that I've done.
Okay, so this first one is the IT support user requirements.
Okay, do you want me to talk
Yeah,
through
you
what I've
can-
written? So I've used at least 2 reference points. There was a tender document which I managed to get a copy of late yesterday, which I will share with the group after this meeting. I've got a paper copy, so I can't really do it now, but I'll share that with you. And that was a tender exercise that didn't get underway. It was discussed at the STC meeting in December. So there is a document there, but it, as I say, didn't progress to an actual tendering exercise. So the first thing I've built in, key aspect of any IT support is having a managed service. The important thing is to make sure that we have a managed service for the number of PCs and laptops we've got that officers have. There's also PCs and a server that's held by the Sandwich Museum staff as well. So what I think we should be looking for is a managed service that supports that. I've used some indications of how that service might manifest itself, but happy to take other people's views, because I did pick up somewhere in that December meeting, Paul, a point was raised by Councillor Ungerson, which was she expected a person to actually visit if a laptop or an iPad was not working within an hour. Now we can always look at building that into that, but the cost that goes with that.
Sorry, Emmett, I think it might just be helpful just to scan down the document before we dive into each box, in order to preempt somebody saying, when you've got it's on the page.
Okay.
So your first one is managed service.
Yeah, and then in parallel to that is the service that we get for the iPads.
Right.
So that's a mobile device management service.
Okay.
Out of our support to talk about.
Right.
Service level agreement in itself in sense of how quickly we expect our support to respond. Where we're going to keep our data. Then what we would expect around regulatory and technical design requirements. The fact that certainly at the moment we use Office 365 for our activities in terms of production of documents, support for procuring new PCs and laptops, i.e. that a provider is there to advise us, maybe give us a route to purchase, etc., but any purchase would not be built into a contract itself, I expect. Then a couple of final things, making sure that we do have reviews with the provider themselves over the period of the contract, and then also looking for a provider that can also provide IT-related training services. And one of the things that's particularly been flagged up recently is about cyber security training, or the lack of it.
Okay. Any immediate gaps? I would ask, where is the help desk, the immediate help desk? If I've got a problem,
Yep.
Where does that sit in?
Yep. So that would be, and you're right, Peter, we can build that in. So that would be
remote and on-site support.
Yeah, further up. The top one. It's the actual managed service. So if we're looking for a help desk service,
so shall I mark that up? Help. Do you want me to
please,
update this document as we
please.
go along?
Yeah.
Do you want me to do it in track changes?
Yes, please. Thank you. So at the moment, the current service we've got is a phone number. We phone and we get somebody on the other end of the phone.
That's correct, yeah.
So in effect, it is a help desk.
Exactly.
But it's not a group of people sitting in a building somewhere.
Yeah. Can I just sound that when I have called the current number that I've had, usually you get like a service desk number, so that is your call number, and that goes through the whole call, which usually I've never had that when I have made use of the service that we've got now.
Okay. Yes.
I've just had a very friendly, okay,
You're right.
you drop it into the Guildhall, we'll pick it up and we'll fix it for you.
Yeah.
But then there's no way of tracking
No.
that
At
call.
the moment, I've got an iPad that isn't working. Been really helpful and friendly, as you say. And I've not been given a ticket number.
No.
I've not been given progress updates.
No.
And it's now a week.
Yeah, exactly, which isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Right. Just a couple of other things that are kind of jumping out at me. You know, one of the things that is really fundamental to us operating is having emails and a secure email and so forth, and that brings in the question of Wi-Fi. who is actually providing the Wi-Fi,
Good point, yeah.
because without the Wi-Fi and the right modems and the right passwords and all of that business,
Now,
where does that fit in this, Emmett?
it doesn't in the sense that at the moment the Wi-Fi provision and the telephony is separate. And I apologise, I don't know the contract provider,
Right.
but the town clerk could have answered that. It does not form part of the Hibbits provision.
Right. And so nothing to do with Wi-Fi,
No.
passwords and all of that
No,
business.
that's separate, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what's normally termed network infrastructure.
I just want to unpick that a bit, Peter.
Yeah.
Password setting for our devices is a Hibbits responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think we need to talk about that a bit because
Well, that's under cyber security then.
it
Under
is.
under
It certainly
security.
is, but there's also one other aspect which is certainly personally I'd be content, subject to all the regulations wrapped around it, is to use a personal device with two-step authentication that enables me to get into Office 365 and the environment that I would use in terms of the counsellor role. I know it is being used, that provision, elsewhere.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's not just you must have an iPad.
No, exactly.
Okay. All right. You've talked there. Sorry, just briefly before we go down, just to make sure we've got the right headings. You've talked about the provision and management of Office 365, which has obviously got Teams,
Yeah.
which is a conferencing service. But what about this? You know what we're doing here at the
Yeah.
moment, the screening, and what about the other thing, the other provision we were talking about for the finance package, and also we've got CCTV securities around here. So are they all part of this because they do come up on the system?
Integration with additional packages,
Right.
generally, because for example calendars,
Yeah.
how they're integrated,
Yeah.
even with the website, as you're saying, integration with the CCTV.
Yeah.
Can we just go on CCTV on our pads? I mean, that's-
So, Emmett, should I make a note that it's not just the provision and management of Office, but it's also the CCTV? Is it? It's the streaming of meetings? Yeah?
Yeah.
Or even the strumming?
Yeah.
And what was your...
General integration.
So having spoken to the finance officer earlier this week, there are some packages that she's really keen to have to make their processes much more efficient. So what I would suggest at the end of this session, there'll be, I think there's two streams of work. One is taking forward the IT support exercise to make sure all requirements are in there, and then to move to the next stage. So whoever owns that piece, I think, needs to speak to the finance officer. She's already got her shopping list. It all comes with cost, but that needs to be captured as part of this piece of work. Okay.
Sorry,
Yes.
that's my checklist. Sorry, thanks.
I was just going to say with the finance officer, because I was in contact with her as well, and asked her to bring forward the tendering or the quotes that she'd received so far,
Yeah.
because she has been through this exercise previously, and not to say that they would be ones that we would go with, but they could help to shortcut looking out to see who there are. So if she's got 2 or 3 tenders already.
And is that for an IT support service?
So that would be for the provision of a finance
Yeah.
system. Yeah.
Yes, she did mention that to me as well. So yeah, she's very clear about what she would like to have.
Exactly.
But I have no idea how much money is involved.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good. So.
That'll be good. Yes, Christina.
it might be for the other documents, but where you've got GDPR compliant, I'm also thinking about the transparency regulations
That's
But-
definitely on the website list.
on the other one,
Yep.
and likewise the scheme of publication, which will be on the other one as well,
Which
won't
one,
it?
sorry?
The scheme of publication.
That one isn't on there, so if you can feed that one in there,
Oh, right,
that'd be
okay.
fantastic. Unless you recognise it under a different title.
No, not
Okay.
yet.
Okay?
Any other general points before Emmett takes us through each section?
So we started on the managed service. What was suggested? So it needs to encompass the museum. So whoever owns this piece of work does need to speak to Millie about her needs. She has got some needs, but additional needs in terms of server reliability, as mentioned by David Shaw as well. I know Millie's been looking at.
Sorry, do you want me to make a note on the
Yeah, I
museum
think there's
then
an action. Yeah, I think
for
there's
action?
definite action there. And building it into wherever we go with this particular piece of work is important. But again, I have had some numbers mentioned by Millie, so they will be a considerable factor in terms of what decisions taken.
And certainly if the archive is going to go
Yes.
online, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And therefore we might need to make a critical decision whether it is its own piece of work that has to take a longer time span.
Can I also ask,
Yeah.
just if I can interrupt at that point, to do with the museum server, because obviously I've worked in this field for quite some time. Managed servers, physical servers, are very, very costly.
Yes.
So you may have seen my email earlier in the week. I think we need to cast our net quite far on this to see what would be the cheapest option for managing the data, how much data it is, how we need to access it, what sort of security levels it needs to be, and where we're going to place that, because to actually buy or lease, which is the common thing, leasing servers is a very expensive business. So.
And cloud-based solutions apparently are available, but then we have to look at the reliability and also the security.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it's, for example, the archive, GDPR and the like wouldn't come into it because it's
historic.
old.
It's historic,
Exactly.
Okay, so
Sorry, do you want me
sorry.
to make a note therefore about the the cloud-based backup or the managed service storage requirements?
I
Or are
think
you
the
happy to?
as long as the action about sitting down with Millie and having a conversation, she's already done an amount of work around server solutions,
Yeah.
and she's a person to explain to us, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just about capturing Paul's concern about the cost and
well,
the need to look very
So
carefully
the cost is
in the minutes or in the notes. Or
yeah.
All right, okay.
I think that is.
So back again, it's IT support. I've pitched it at 9 to 5. If we think we want it longer, earlier start, later finish, other days other than Monday to Friday, the costs of that service will increase, of course. And I just don't know whether people are comfortable with that. I personally am comfortable with Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, because there are alternative ways of doing our business without, for us, an iPad actually physically working. We would expect proactive monitoring PCs. That's in the sense of health of those items, making sure if there's any issues in terms of those that remotely they're able to say you have definitely got a problem with traffic or whatever it might be in terms of the performance with that PC. We would expect for the laptops and PCs that we get a managed service around updates and patching. It wouldn't be down to the staff to do. And you've added in the help desk, Peter, thank you. So the iPad, in some ways, it's about moving forward with what we've got. I'm not necessarily personally driven by this solution. It's not brilliant for me, but that just might be me, so it works to a point, but we've got old machines and etc. So it's based on the fact we've got iPads at the moment, so we want a parallel service that in many respects mirrors what the staff will get in terms of support. Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, And then again, the same in terms of updates and remote and on-site support. People okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So out of hours support and response. This will come with a price tag to it. I've put that in there and I just really wanted to see what people thought, whether on a Saturday, Sunday that they would expect to have a service provider that was accessible. It can just stay in there as a question mark as opposed to a statement, or
I
equally
think
you can build it in.
that's right. It should stay there because, or certainly as a potential, because as a council, we're not essentially doing a 9 to 5 job.
No, we're not.
A lot of it will be at the weekends and the
Yes,
evenings,
very true.
by definition, for those, because our meetings are in the week. So having an out-of-hours
Yeah.
response, I think, is important.
I suppose when we come to the tender stage, it must be possible to actually say,
That's
declare that as
exactly.
an optional extra cost.
Exactly,
Yeah.
most definitely. That'd be very expensive for
Yeah.
weekend cover.
Yeah. Okay. Then the next line item is a service level agreement for response times. This is, I've looked at a few contracts that I could see out in the world of the web, and fairly standard this approach, that you would expect to get a response quickly. You would expect to get resolution time of 24 hours or better if at all possible. What I've not put in there, Peter, might be worth mentioning, was around ticketing and
That's it.
and regular
Indeed.
updates of progress.
That's it.
I can finesse the words around that, Peter.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Then, if we're happy to move on, the next line item, provision of a cloud-based backup and storage service. That's what we've got now. Also, key to have effective data recovery, so we need to have a very clear declaration about how we get the data recovered and how quickly.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that's going to tie in with the BCP as well.
It will do. It
So,
will do.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Right with that. Then essentially we have regulatory and technical design requirements built into whatever contracts we have in place. So certainly the systems need to be secure and have core cybersecurity protection. So we'd be looking for any tender to that clearly be demonstrated. GDPR compliant, accessibility statement from the company that we're dealing with, and a privacy policy also from the same perspective. The one thing that I know's cropped up in some or Paul, you might have better informed me, around the domain name, but we've got .gov.uk. We need to have a supplier that can work with those. Does that affect both the IT support and also the website? Should it be in both? Is my question.
I would say it should be. I would say it should be because we've got all the web addresses of .gov web addresses as well. So I would put that in to make sure we're fully covered.
Yeah.
If that was me. One other thing with that, just it's only a minor thing. Quite a lot of companies are talking about sustainability.
Oh yes, yeah.
So I didn't know if Peter could perhaps add that to the regulatory and technical. Most companies have to put in, and in fact now the tendering process that's undertaken in IT circles actually has a section for sustainability.
So did you drop in the domain name, the ability of providing a service that?
Because I think here you would need the ability to work with .gov.
Yes.
With the website, not necessarily, because you're linking it in a different manner.
Good. And then the next line item is the provision of management of Office 365, which we've added. CCTV. So a couple of these, whoever takes this forward, I think there's a prior activity which is investigating how do we currently procure CCTV provision. It's never been mentioned by David Shaw, so I'm suspecting it's a completely standalone item, maybe with the hardware within the building possibly. So there's something there to see. It doesn't mean to say we shouldn't include it in a tender. Streaming of meetings. We have, the town clerk did mention there was a company that could, she mentioned it last time, didn't she, that could come and give us a demonstration. That shouldn't prevent us getting on with this, I don't think.
No.
I just think that those are all of the different types of software packages
Yeah.
that we would want to bolt on to
Yeah.
this. And so, you know, taking Simon's point about general integration of software, it could be streaming, it could be finance,
Yeah.
you know, it could be allotments, it could be,
Yes. Yes.
you know, one, it could be databases. I'd like, you know, I think we need to have, I don't know where the databases sit,
Yeah.
because I think we need more, you know, databases. If somebody phones in or logs a complaint on the website, you know, that,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lamppost not
Exactly.
in a bad state
Yes.
type of thing.
Yeah.
How do we know where that information is and
Yeah.
to be able to act on it?
Okay.
So I don't know if we need to put something about databases and, you know, and those things need to kind of have the links, don't they? So from the website needs to be linked. So, you know, one of the big things is the link to the website.
Possibly a generic management information system. I think that's
That's a real prompt, which I don't think I did include in this. We would expect the IT support, the managed service we get, to also support the website, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So whilst we might, well, sorry, that's a question. In the
That's what I
sense, if we do get a separate contract for the website, because the specialism is about website delivery, then they may well include a supporting service in terms of maintenance. But is there an aspect here also for websites?
Well, I think so, because I think if the town clerk publishes a notice and she's loading the notice onto our server here, our IT server here, it wants, in parallel, she wants to be able to load it onto the website. We don't want to have duplicate systems where, you know, half of the minutes are on the website but not on the server and so forth. So it's just how these two systems will link, you know. So again, I like Simon's generic integration information management system.
Where you've got e.g. finance, I don't know if you'd like to maybe add sort of digitised archive and also a video library of, because live streaming and the library of recordings are two different things.
Yes.
movies.
Okay.
See, a lot of these systems nowadays that the larger organisations are using something called OneDrive, and then of course from Office 365 you get things like SharePoint.
Yes.
So that's what the larger organisations are doing. So what Peter was saying about the storing of files, with SharePoint they can be stored somewhere, and then the access can be managed so different people have access to those. So say for instance the town clerk with SharePoint could be producing the minutes and putting them onto SharePoint, and then perhaps, although I'm jumping the gun here, one of the administrative assistants who's updating the website could also go to SharePoint, so there's no duplication of records, and uses the minutes to update the website. So something like that would seem like a sensible option. So,
But there will be confidential areas, you know,
of
where
course,
people need to have access rights
Exactly.
to those confidential areas.
that's right, yeah. And the systems administrator, whoever that would be, would assign the access. So if, as you say, it was an HR or personnel matter, only certain people, the town clerk and the finance officer or whoever, would have access to those areas. So.
Okay. Excellent. Moving on, if we're okay to do that.
All right, I think, are we at the... No,
And then we've just got some final items. This is really about having a provider that's able to advise us in terms of replacement items. I mean, it's interesting, I believe the iPads were, sorry, it's been said,
Yes,
it might be folklore, some all were bought via eBay, whether that's true or not I don't know. But the reality is the iPads do not sit within contractor provision at the moment,
No.
and it's possible that maybe we would want them to, but what that line item is really making sure we have a provider that is there to not just be there to be on the end of the phone, but also be an intelligent provider that's able to guide us that when we need to replace something, they can advise us, give us hopefully good advice in terms of what's best in market in terms of quality, but also maybe price as well.
Yeah, oh definitely.
Okay.
And you are correct, the when the iPads were bought, they were bought via a provider who, it was thought there was some sort of, I don't know if Councillor Morehouse remembers, there was a discount, and so we were buying quite a large number of iPads, and then in the end we were told, oh no, you can only buy 10, because the allowance for the discount that you're requesting is 10. So we then had to go to another provider to get the rest of them. So that's why this is quite important, that there is support to make sure that where we're providing the equipment from is a legitimate supplier.
Okay. The next is to build in, and I've suggested quarterly. I expect that any tendering exercise probably will be based on a 12-month contract with an option to extend beyond that. But within that period, and I know it doesn't happen now, we need to have formal reviews.
We do.
Not just us reviewing them, they should be reviewing us as customers.
Exactly, yeah. That's,
okay. And then finally, actually having a provider that can provide IT-related training services. Whether we can get any of that for free or not, I don't know. But we certainly want them to have that capability, I think.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Okay.
So they're going to give cyber security training. So if we had a cyber security incident, would we be looking to this managed service company to help resolve that?
Oh, so yeah, that will be an incident that they have to investigate and report to us, Peter. I think this training is around prevention. At the moment, there is a gap in terms of up-to-date knowledge of cyber security risk.
I believe the report that we got back from the ICO on the recent issue that we suffered, that was one of the requirements that said if your councillors haven't had any cyber security training, then you have to get that into place as soon as possible. So we've got to comply with those requirements.
Okay. So if people are happy with that, I'm happy to tidy it up, but I'd like to find an owner for taking this forward. The second piece of work is around the website, and I'm happy to do that because I feel that I'm more adept at dealing with that rather than this. But I think I've got two colleagues here who probably are best placed, unless Mark wants to jump in the ring as well. Then we can have a fight. What I'm looking for, the next finance and general purposes meeting is on 17th of July, which would mean a report would need to go on the 12th of July. So before that, I think the investigative work in terms of turning it into an appropriate tender should happen. It's about maybe a 3-week span. We should have us come together again and sign off a draft tender that we're comfortable with to take to the committee meeting on the 17th of July. That would be my aim, unless people think that's too ambitious.
Just one question on the museum. Will Millie get a say in the POS system, or that needs reviewing?
It's a good question, Mark, because I think whoever takes ownership of this has to engage with Millie early on. She's got very
because I think Millie is working with a POS system that she inherited rather than one that she might be better.
And because of the cost, because of so there are a number of issues there, Mark. One is it apparently is not robust enough to say we don't have to worry for a number of years. So that's number one. So she is looking to replace it, but it is bespoke.
Right.
It does have a cost, and it.
Who was it designed on?
I don't know. I don't know. I think she's got two options on the table, so that's why somebody needs to sit down with her and understand what her requirement is. We might not want to slow down this process. We might not want to consume her need, which is probably going to be quite substantial, in line with a managed service contract, which shouldn't be overly expensive in theory.
Oh, definitely.
That's just my personal view. I'm not dictating that.
No.
So what I would ask is whoever takes ownership, and I'm looking to Simon or Paul to do this.
I'm going to step back here
Yeah.
because my expertise is the technical as opposed to the business side.
Okay. Paul, would you?
The only trouble is I wouldn't be able to make the deadline that you're
Okay.
looking for.
Yeah.
I've taken on an additional project at work, so I've got quite a lot of pressure at work, unfortunately. So I definitely couldn't promise it for that July deadline.
So how do you want to take stock of
Yeah.
time?
Well, that's the trouble. The problem is, although I might have the expertise, I haven't got the time. So it's, if anybody else had the ability, I mean, I'm quite happy to act as like a consultant to help support anybody that took this on, but it's quite a lot of work to draft this up. Yeah, as I say, I know I definitely couldn't. I wouldn't like to promise that for the.
I would totally agree with Paul. This is far too much. I think on a part-time basis.
Yeah, part-time.
Get
Yeah,
to
exactly.
mid-July, so even full-time, you'd be looking at stretching it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So if we were, and this is fine, because actually what we said was we would do it properly.
Yeah, indeed. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't want to rush it.
I'm happy to take ownership for the website side. I think if I push it, I might meet that deadline. Until I start.
Yeah,
Until I start.
Yeah, that's it.
Looking at it, but I certainly can't do both.
Oh no, definitely
Lots
not.
of other stuff.
No, we
that I
wouldn't
do as
expect
well.
you to.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no.
So the next meeting after that, I presume, is going to be mid-August.
Exactly.
Let me have a look. I should have it in my 14th of August.
So that sounds good.
Which would mean if you took it back from that data report would go in the 9th of August at the latest.
Yeah, sounds a bit more
So
sensible.
Paul, if you are able to,
Yeah.
if I can help in some respects, I will
Sure.
try, but I will overstretch myself beyond capacity, the way things are at the moment. So 9th of August will be the absolute deadline, having a tender document ready, so in effect it's 2 months.
That's
But in that time it involves, there is quite a bit of,
yeah.
digging down.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
So
Right, sorry, before we move off this,
Yeah.
you've put this priority rating column on showstopper,
Yeah.
required or useful. I think what we've been talking about so far is everything's required. Is that,
Yeah.
you know, I don't,
It
But
suits
nothing's a
me.
showstopper because we can carry on
No.
working.
yeah,
It's just irritating at times,
yeah.
the way that the system works.
So, and in effect, you're right to ask it, Peter. When I started, I had a blank page. I thought it might be
Yeah.
good,
Indeed.
might be good to
Indeed,
categorise
well
them.
done.
But I think as we've done this,
Yeah.
all of these things are things we would need to have.
Exactly.
So all required.
All
That's a simple answer.
Okay,
Okay.
so can I
Yeah, you can
save
say
that
that one.
and
Thank you. So we've just hit the halfway point, which is fantastic. We've got the website now. Now, in some respects, if I can do this quicker, the value of it is visible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas the support services is in the background.
Yeah.
If we can make progress with this quicker in
Exactly.
August, I think everybody would be.
Grateful. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
From the back.
I was going to say the same actually.
Yeah.
On that, Emmett, is quite possibly what we might have to do is we might have to, so we can show some progress, is ascertain which piece of the IT that we can actually move fast,
Yeah.
furthest fast.
Yeah.
So if it was, say, the website, if we could get somebody in to actually do the website, then possibly, I mean, this is essential, but if we look at the historical side of this, we've been limping, haven't we, Councillor Morehouse? For the last about 18 months we've been limping forward with this. And we're on this month by month cover currently.
We are.
So we'll just have to see, you know, what we can get done first. But it would be nice as a committee to actually have something that we can give a date for and say this is going to be completed on.
So on the website, I personally, having gone through the experience for both those sets of requirements, I'm personally more comfortable with this. I think also the ability to go to the market should be easier, in the sense that the NALC, CALC advice includes, I won't use the word recommendations, it includes companies that they're aware of.
Exactly.
Also, it's easier in the sense of conversations with local councils that have good sites.
That's it.
It's easy to have, and I will do it. I'll have a conversation with them, who they use, how they, what's their experience with that provider, just to build that intelligence around where we go with it. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
So just running through, looking for a website solution that has facility to upload and sort any documents. So that's something we currently do at the moment. We're reliant on Hibbits to do that. We want similar provision in whoever we contract within. Okay, so that's a fairly standard parish council requirement. Okay. Then member details. Again, obvious stuff. We do want to have our details on there. We want to have information about us. We want to have photograph, facilities, bios. We're all familiar with that. Okay. Something that we don't have at the moment, but I personally feel we should do, is link into social media. We've got a Facebook site. We should consider possibly Twitter. We should also consider possibly Instagram. Definitely the Dover District Council website. I don't know, we saw
Kent County
Council as well, could be added in.
Might also be useful to have CALC, NALC and the Local Government Association.
Okay, do you want to have those in, please?
Okay.
On the links.
Well, you've got the Dover District Council. Please.
So I picked that particularly up as an example, planning portal, because I found one thing that people locally would be interested in, as I have, is actually being able to quickly jump across to the planning portal. But also there was some ONS material that was shared with us this morning. It was from Dover, so again, people might like that. So we just need to look at what links we can build in to the website. So it's now CALC.
Well, there are other, like the Environment Agency and stuff like that.
Yes, Christina.
The link to the digitised archives, which will probably be a separate database, but I know that there are proprietary databases for that sort of thing.
Okay, yes.
And you might also,
CALC and the LGA, the Local Government
if you're
Association.
using YouTube for videos, then you'd want that as well.
You know, the other thing would be for me on my list is local organisations and clubs.
That does come up, so we didn't do what you suggested quite rightly last time.
So you don't listen to this.
It will come up. Okay. So, in fact, the next one. So, dynamic features, the ability for users of the website to create community events, include a local directory of interest, create a headline banner, include a gallery facility for photographs, ability for residents to contact the council via the website. Something they can't do at the moment. So, so these drafting that comes under that.
And under that, I think it's important that if residents do contact us, they probably want to register some defect somewhere, and that defect may be for us to correct, or Dover, or Kent County Council, or the Environment Agency, or whatever. So we need to get clear.
On the live stream, it's been suggested links to police and schools as potentially, And I just wanted to ask quickly, is the contact form on the current website not working? Because I'm aware that people have tried and they're not sure what's happening.
I've actually tried it recently, so to see if Jill would respond. So I did actually fill in the contact form and send it off to Jill, and I've never had a reply. So that was probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I haven't had time to actually ask her, but if it had come through, I would have thought that she would have replied. She's quite quick at replying to my emails. So
one of the things I agreed with David Shaw was that I will be a user of the website, and I'm going to do that towards the end of this week, early next week, and actually just navigate through it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give him a snagging list of items that he needs to fix, remove. There's lots of stuff that are 2 or 3, 4 years old. So a list for him to work through, and he has accepted he will do that. Now I don't know how quickly that will happen, and I've just noted it down here, Christina. I will look at the form itself.
Yeah, a viewer's just said that she's still waiting for a reply, and so I think a few people have tried to use it and it's gone into a bit of a black hole.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
I think possibly it could be linked to a generic email address, so like info@sandwichtowncouncil.gov.uk, and of course we've had a loss of 3 staff, 3 important staff. One of those staff, I won't name names, could have been the one that was covering info at, and so there could be a mailbox somewhere that's got quite a large number of requests in it currently.
Yeah. Also, the actual use of the thing that makes mail work, SMTP, has actually changed in a lot of websites, because to get 2-stage authentication, you can't. It's more difficult. If they haven't updated the way that POP and SMTP works on our website, then it just dies a death.
But could I just also say, in terms of dynamic features, if somebody wants to book one of the community venues for something, or a wedding, is that because those things are important to us as a council, because they can generate income.
Exactly.
So people need to be able to see if a hall's free or if the courtroom's free for planning a wedding. So is that what you mean by create a community event?
Yeah.
I thought, or as a community event, a folk and nail and
it was more towards that, but I think you're right. That could be another item to add in, Peter, which is around facility for booking.
What about markets?
Markets as well.
Under dynamic features, I'm just wondering whether documents might be searchable by words, by keywords.
No, that should be standard. I would hope. With regard to dynamic, also, one of my headings on the form, I put "want the best calendar in the area." We might have it down here, but basically, I think calendar is one of the biggest things possible for the website, because that's what we do. We go on, see what's happening, whether it's council meetings, whether it's bookings, whether it's when the History Society meets, festivals,
all encompassing.
It is
integrated calendar.
Yeah. And how best to make that work in that you've got users. Should we have restricted a user, or for example, Richard down the Fleur has his access to only look at the Fleur's calendar, and he can update that. And it just means that if there's 100 events happening in one day, one person, for example, the clerk doesn't say can't deal with this. Everybody who's got an interest is able to access their stream of events, and you might sort of say, well, all I want to look at is History Society.
All right, so you've got the ability to select.
Yes, you can. It's both granular, it's both all-encompassing, users, but I think calendar to my mind, is a big thing.
Yeah,
Would
okay.
that include visibility on the rooms that are available?
Yeah,
Why
that's
not?
what
It's
we've
a
got,
good-
that facility booking. Yeah.
Yeah, so room booking, could you,
Can I add a couple of
Oh,
things?
sorry, yes, Yep.
What about visitor information? And there's a whole shed load of things about visitor information
yeah.
that needs to come through, and allotments, and you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think, local directory of interest, well, expand that, Peter, because that's what that was touching on, but to be more explicit. You mentioned a lot of things.
Peter's quite right about the visitor information, because I've known over the years we've spent an awful lot of money on producing leaflets, and sometimes they don't all get distributed, and with leaflets are only any good when the people actually reach the destination.
Yeah.
So if there was an ability for visitors to look up information before they actually get here, if they're coming from
Yes.
some distance, that would be a great help.
Right, a couple of other kind of, maybe it's a bit random, but I think we need to have something for local businesses, and you know, and not so local businesses. Do you know what I'm saying? That these local businesses, is if they've got some good news that they want to share, or they've got some new products or whatever, you know, we should. The website should support local businesses. Now, to what level, I'm not absolutely too sure, you know, in terms of, you know, gambling and drinking and all of those other things but, you know, I do think we need to consider how to integrate local businesses and businesses, you know, and attract businesses to this. I also think we need to think about how people make applications to the town because they want, you know, a few quid to make a good idea happen. Type of thing. So that all needs to be fed in somewhere in here.
Grant application forms, but there again, they need review anyway.
Yes, that's what I put down. Sandwich Torbridge Fund grant application form. Yes.
And
awful.
And sorry, the other thing.
What about general information, like the community assets, what the council owns, and what Torbridge owns? People aren't particularly aware of that.
Yeah,
Not readily available.
I'm hoping that will come under the publication scheme, which should have, which at the moment is the closest we've got is the FOI section, but that really needs to be a lot bigger than it currently is, and it should include those documents.
Well, we've got this section about the member details, presumably that's the council member details. But maybe what we need to have is a section about the council. Job vacancies, you know, all of those types of things, what the council's responsibilities are. And so
Can
forth.
I also suggest a very big title, generally called Dynamic? Because what we come up with for this website, in a year's time, once they've done it, there's more. You know, right down to having you've got your laptop or your mobile phone and you can walk around Sandwich and it comes up with Sandwich history. So but that's dynamic, that's not for this meeting. That's
But you just triggered another thought in my head, which is not on there. We want to have a website that can be used regardless of the device you're using. Mobile phone, iPad, laptop, PC. Because if you do use your phone for our website, it doesn't always present properly.
No, that's the trouble.
So is that on the website capacity and operability? Is there something
I
there
think
that
it
you
would
want
be
me
yes,
to?
yes, we can, yes.
So what? So give me some words.
So we
This is
User
dynamic.
interface.
yeah, user interface. Yeah. Brackets compatibility with all devices.
He's using WordPress to do the website. Yeah, that comes with WordPress. anyway. But even so, you still have to design it so that it looks usable.
Yeah. Because at the moment,
Sorry,
yes,
Simon, you made a good point about it being dynamic, so that capable of future updates.
Yes, it does. What you just said, capable of future updates.
Chair, can I be excused for 5 minutes?
yes, please. Yeah, that's fine.
One thing I was just going to raise, which you've alluded onto just there, in the civil service, we had accessibility testing on
Yes.
government websites, and you can actually get organisations that will actually test the accessibility of a website as regards to people with disabilities or dyslexia or things like that, and then your website actually gets a rating, and then they produce a report to tell you what you need to do to improve it so it's accessible for all. So that's perhaps something else we can think about.
Yeah, we might have that under regulatory and other.
Yeah, regulatory, yeah, indeed.
But it's interesting at the moment. If you go onto the town council site, there is a accessibility badge in the top left-hand corner.
Really?
Yes.
Gosh, I've never spotted
There is.
that.
The problem is it's right across
Oh, I see.
your ability to click to another page.
Oh, dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Sorry, was there something else I needed?
What's going on? Yes, Christine.
Under regulatory and so forth, if we could add the FOI publication scheme.
Okay. So what is listed under on this particular line? If you go up just slightly, Peter, I'll just show you what we've included. Ensure website content meets necessary regulatory and technical design requirements. For example, site certification, compliance with, this is around accessibility requirements. There's a transparency code that you mentioned earlier, Christina. GDPR compliant accessibility statement, privacy policy, and we've now included FOI publication schemes.
What about complaints? Should we have the complaints policy or procedure in there?
That will come under the publication scheme.
Oh, right, okay.
That's
Yeah,
a heading.
yes, it
There's going to be
yeah.
loads of stuff under
Yeah.
that.
Okay. On to the next line, website capacity operability. So I just put down things there that I was able to pick up from a few different sources. So we need to make sure we've got a website that should have capacity and resilience to deliver an uninterrupted solution. Considering sufficient disk space, unlimited bandwidth, unlimited number of pages, should we keep on building on it? Daily remote backups, reliable UK hosting, Operation Royal Bridge ready. What that is if a member of the royal family dies, the screens can be turned black immediately. Apparently, so now Trip to Cross is available out there in the world of the internet, which is really important to public service organisations. Expecting to have ongoing help and support, and then the two new items, user interface and the dynamic feature that Simon mentioned. Anything else we think?
Well, I think you might well have covered it, or it might be under website security, but the ability to have multiple users able to update the website at different levels with different controls.
Okay, so I think it's the one above, yeah.
Yeah.
The one above, so yeah. So you can say that again?
Yes,
Multiple,
multiple user access, but segregated. Are we allowed to use that word?
With different levels,
Yes.
different levels of access,
of
different
access.
access levels.
Access and security levels.
To enable updating.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last thing, you don't, well, personally, I don't think one should have a person or whoever has the contract only able to update it. I think the more people can update it, the better.
Definitely. Yeah. Christina, did you?
Yes, I was just thinking from a slightly different angle in terms of development. So you'd probably have like a development environment, a live environment, you'd have a test process.
Standard.
So it's that process around how it's developed rather than content.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's covered somewhere.
That would be, that's what's called beta testing. So once they've actually got a dummy version of the website, they usually pump it out to like a control group who sort of test it to see if they can break it, and that would be part of the beta testing which any IT organisation should do. So in other words, they wouldn't actually produce the final website and then say, there you go, that's it all set up. They should build a beta version and then give that to a number of us to test, and then once we've tested it, then they would develop it from there. That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
So is this a dark area on the website that has got restricted access that somebody goes into?
So you can do sandpit first of all, which is basically away from everything,
Exactly.
and all harebrained ideas go into the sandpit to work on. You can then do an alpha stage, beta. Beta is before it's actually, well, if you actually go onto gov.uk, a lot of parts of that have been beta forever.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah, I'm glad you've seen that as well.
Yes.
HMRC is one of the worst.
Yes.
5 years in beta testing.
Never get.
So, yeah, I think there is something there, Christina. I think it's more of a question about how they approach future development, building on the dynamic. Is how do they engage with us, and what opportunity do we have to trial changes and test. So it's really understanding their
change management.
Yeah, how do they manage change management?
Capable of future updates and
Yeah.
process of change.
Okay.
And testing.
Interesting, yeah. Thank you. We've gone to website security, just a very simple statement, but very important. So multiple security layers that meet standards necessary for a local government website. So they need to evidence to us that they have all the compliance and all the measures in place that would make us confident.
Exactly. Yeah. And can that include there's something called whitelisting and blacklisting?
Okay. Yeah.
Because as a government website, I know it seems quite standard thing, but so that it will whitelisting and blacklisting, so it will take out certain sites, don't like using these words, but pornography and gambling and things like that.
Yeah.
So those sites cannot be listed on there, particularly if we're having other people, with all due respect, I know they have restricted access, but we don't want somebody, Mr. Harris, putting something on there and saying, oh, we're having dancing girls and gambling or something in Fleur-de-Lis, and then he puts that onto the So what the blacklisting will do, it will actually pick up any particular words like gambling or pornography or something like that, and it won't allow them to publish what they've actually put on there. So.
Okay. Thank you. And then the final line item, user experience. Website design should be easy to navigate with the inclusion of suitable draw-down menus and single-click movement between pages. So that's a given.
Yeah.
But mostly missed on so many websites.
If we look on, if we look on our own site, it's not quite there.
That's when I say all there.
Yeah.
You're welcome to.
Okay. Comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Anything missing? All required?
Yes.
All required.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make contact with some local councils that I've looked at a few sites already and just have a conversation about who they've engaged. I'll look at Calc and see who they have got as users that they say have experience of supporting local councils, and then I'll start working on a tendering document. I suppose the question is whether we are able to access any tendering documents that are preferred by Calc. I don't know whether anybody's experienced that before having served?
Yeah, no, I can't say I have, no. Previously, these requirements were then sort of parcelled up and pushed off to whoever was the town clerk or CEO
Yes.
of the day,
I'll speak to
and the
Jill.
person may not have had the technical requirements and just pushed it out.
Yeah.
And we have had tenders back for websites before, but
Yeah.
you know, whether they were up to the standard that we're doing this, I don't think so.
But, you know, for me as well, you know, this is what I would call the technical spec.
Yes.
There's also the kind of the form of contract, the payment mechanisms,
Of course.
the instructions
Yeah.
to tenderers,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
all of those other
Yeah.
documents
Of course.
that need to be prepared, and to
Yeah.
what extent, you know, the town has those to hand type of thing, and ones that organisations would readily, you know, accept, because you don't want to have long, you know, I'm sure Mark will tell you, long heated discussions about, you know, what's force majeure and all of these types of issues.
Indeed.
I think also the ability, you know, to know what can happen on a website, because, you know, a web developer might sort of say, oh, we're going to do this and do that, and if you then say, well, I wanted to do this, and they say, oh, I'm not sure we can do that, but to be able to say, yes, you can, because I've seen it, or I know that the soft, because quite honestly, on a website, you can do anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more?
No, that's it.
For anyone?
Thank you.
So, we did have any other business. Is there anything else anybody would like to raise apart from agree a date for the next meeting?
I think the only thing I was going to raise, if that's okay, Chairman, is the factor that with these iPads, you know, we're not too sure how long we've got to continue using those for. Jill was sort of telling me that quite possibly that there's not any spare ones at all, and so whoever bought them the first time round, I think that might have been Councillor Friend possibly, but there wasn't the capacity for like having a spare one as a backup. And I was just thinking, because you said yourself that your one was actually being fixed, and I didn't know, did they offer you a spare one, or?
No, they did they gave me what I want.
Oh, right.
Which was, they gave me a password.
Oh, right, I see.
So I'm now using my own device.
Ah, right, I see. Oh, okay then. Oh, that's Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I thought it looked better specifications. So,
You could have mine as a spare.
So, because of course previously they wouldn't give us the passwords at all. Well, that's what we were told by previous CEO, said they wouldn't give us the password. So
having speaking to David direct, he was happy to do it, and also obviously because he knew I was interested in the IT contract situation, they wanted to hear quickly.
Oh, that's excellent.
So it is a provision that's available.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Christine.
I'm thinking there might be something additional around the videoing, because we've spoken about the website, we've spoken about sort of IT service management, but in terms of actually doing the videoing, having microphones, having whatever camera you're going to be using, and all of that, I'm not quite sure where that fits at the moment.
So what I was going to propose, Christina, that looking towards the next meeting, the town clerk did mention there's a company that can come in and give us a demonstration of what we might be able to get as a solution. Not trying to sell it to us, but just give us a demonstration. If we could time them to come to the next meeting, that would be ideal for me. And then we could next time focus on the that solution.
Sorry, I think in my line of thinking, we have these user requirements. The next step is to get, you know, what I've always known as a functional specification, which actually sets out some of the functions that are actually behind these headings. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how we should be developing it. That's how we should be developing it, to make sure that we get what we actually require to do the job. So.
Because you want to test against the functions, not against the user requirements.
Exactly.
So how would you do do that.
Well-
So we've
Well,
got user requirements sorted once we go through this process.
And then I think it's a question of kind of going through those user requirements
Yeah.
and taking it down to the next level. Really,
Yeah.
that's it for me, Paul.
Exactly, I agree, yeah, I agree. That's what it is, because once you've got, these are what are called in project management terms stories. So the user requirements of the stories, that's what I'd want, sort of like that. But then after that, you develop that, so you break down the user stories into the individual functions. So for instance, it might be with the calendar function that you want the ability to perhaps put bookings in or something like that, and they would be the functions. So the user story is we want a calendar that people can all access, but the functions would be then broken down from that user requirement, so from the story.
And then for me, the next two steps are they come up with, okay, we've got the functions, now we need to understand the software, so we need to develop a software specification. And then when we know what the software is, we can decide on the hardware specification, and then that goes on then to the integration of the hardware and the software, and subsequently back up to the kind of testing.
And Peter is correct here. I installed in Canterbury City Council, quite some time ago, when the parking enforcement officers were going out, and I provided the very first handheld devices. They were called iPacks, and that was exactly what we had to do from the software. By developing the software, we could actually determine what hardware we needed to buy to make sure that the function would work on that device, so which is important.
So let me just challenge that a little bit in the sense that what we want, or what we've been charged with, is tendering process for a website solution. There are solution providers out there. We've also been charged with an IT support function that's a managed service. In terms of what you're saying is, right, if we were building that as an organisation, the functions, etc., is that necessary if we're looking for a managed service? Is it necessary when we're looking for a website provision from a provider who is a third party?
I think the user requirements would be enough to actually produce the tender.
I think so, yeah.
And then once we've got an organisation on board, then we can actually designate the functions that we require. So, and that
sorry, well, I'm almost with you there.
All right.
But a slight deviation on that part. I think the user requirements, with a little bit of more amplification as we've got them now, would be okay for the tender. And whilst the tender period is going on, we can work out the next level of functions.
Indeed.
So that when we come to evaluate the tenders, you can say, right, so this that you're providing, will that do an allotment calendar for me?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we can follow that up.
Okay, so we'll need to build that into our work programme in parallel with the tendering exercise. Well, I want to make sure it didn't seem right that it would stop or influence us being able to go and do a tendering exercise. But as I said, what you're saying, we can build that in there.
And of course, this brings us back to the next stage of the whole programme. Is it going to be bespoke software or off-the-shelf software? Because that's the other factor. And of course, that's how deep are your pockets. Because if you want an all singing, all dancing, you can actually have the software created from scratch to do exactly what you want it to do. So if you want to send a space rocket up into
but it costs hundreds of thousands of pounds. So I think we've got to be looking at more about off-the-shelf ones that meet our requirements, but also have the flexibility to add on modules.
And in some respects, we have a solution at the moment. We know what that is, Office 365 for us. There are requirements of the officers, like Karen, and she will articulate that. Again, a slight challenge back in the sense of what we haven't got here is a open season for building a whole host of software packages packages unless somebody says, I clearly have a gap, and if you deliver this, I can deliver X amount of efficiency to you as an organisation.
Indeed.
You might not be aware, but the council did trial a Facebook live stream in February 22, and it was working fine.
Yes.
It was stopped during the meeting because there was some concerns about content in the meeting, but actually the live stream itself was working fine, and that was through the STC Facebook page. So you have that capability already if you choose to use it, and if you have access to be able to create the event.
Yeah. Yes, I think using existing systems that are generally available rather than having them, we shouldn't be in that way. All right, agreed. Yeah.
So is there anybody who's able, because I've got a bit of work here to do.
And I've got even more work to do.
Yes, there are certain considerations away from workplace as well, aren't there, in terms of your availability. Is there anybody who can say, put their hand up, because if we have a meeting in 2 weeks' time or so, to say actually I'll go away and start giving some thought to how we might look at the live streaming. Or not.
Excuse me while you ponder that one for a minute.
Yeah. Peter isn't going to be available for a few days.
No.
To do the live streaming, you'd also have to create policy and procedure for the council regarding it. So that's a piece of work that would have to be done.
Yeah.
But at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm doing a standalone recording for YouTube, which I then upload, and that goes into one zone. And then there's the Facebook live stream, which is on a separate device. And you could do that Facebook live stream as soon as you're able to create events in your own Facebook group or page, because you have done it before, so we know it works. Then actually you could do that straight away as soon as as soon as you've got someone who would be able to do it. And well, I mean, I don't know what's stopping you.
That's
I don't know, Simon or Mark, whether you would be willing and able to take this away and at least do some initial.
Basically, what I'd be doing, I think, initially would be looking at the technology, how it works, how it can work.
Maybe speaking to the town park.
And for example, cameras. You've got 3 cameras there.
Yeah.
Would we need a camera stuck up there and a camera up there and a camera there?
I can explain what I've got.
Yes.
This one is a standalone, and it just creates a video, just like any video anybody would take photos, video, and then I take this home and I upload it to YouTube over Wi-Fi at home to an account that I created. This one is the Facebook live stream, and so that's all it does. It's within Facebook, within a group. I've created something called an event, and I've chosen live stream as the event type, and that's it. And I've attached the agenda to it so people can look at the agenda, and this one is purely backup for the YouTube, because from my perspective the YouTube has always been the better quality one, and it's the one that can sit in a library, whereas the Facebook live stream that will get lost in a Facebook group somewhere. People will look at it and then it's history, but the YouTube can be archived, and so this one, the only purpose for this one is backup for this one, and so this one just gets trashed. Once this one's uploaded, I delete that one.
The two points I would make, Simon, and I'm hoping you might be able to do some exploratory work. It's not coming up with the solution per se, but the 2 things for me are what is best practice for local councils in terms of how they might, and we talked about things like the procedures around it. So what's best practice in terms of running a sustainable provision? Storing on Facebook, is that acceptable? I don't know the answer to that. Storing on YouTube, is that acceptable? Well, you can see a lot of examples on
A lot of
YouTube.
councils do that.
Yeah. So it's just that.
Yeah.
And then alongside it is the hardware. What we have at the moment are issues about actually, do we purchase microphones, even having free phones has a cost to it.
Yeah.
That's the right. So it's just start to form some ideas maybe for next time. Speaking to the town park in terms of the demonstration.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sorry to land it on you though.
No,
It's
no,
just ringing out to people.
I'm more than happy to demonstrate
Yeah.
and
Yes.
to explain what I
Yeah.
do. You know,
Yeah.
I,
Yes,
because
well,
I've learnt.
I'll go on the Facebook again and YouTube and just sort of see the comparison.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, what I would say is I use a fairly low resolution for
oh,
YouTube,
yeah.
only because otherwise the file size is huge,
I know,
absolutely massive.
I do videos of the Doddington pantomime every year. 20 gigabytes
Right,
uploaded,
yeah.
which takes about 3 days.
Well, yes, I know. I mean, this
Yeah.
one, to upload it, will take maybe 3 times as long as the meeting itself took.
Yeah, I'm there.
I prefer low resolution. It doesn't-
Well,
it
it's
doesn't show up the.
no, it's full HD, but
Oh,
I can go better, but I've chosen
no,
not
that's fine,
to.
That's fine. We don't want 4K, thank you.
Okay. So,
Okay, I need to-
starting off the process of
Yeah.
how we might approach a live streaming function for the council. So I was going to suggest, in terms of the next meeting date, it would be 2 weeks away. If people are okay with that, would that be acceptable? But it will be a 6:30 meeting.
Oh, good, yeah.
This was to enable Karen and Sam Clark.
I was going to ask when I first came in, because as I said, I did ask her to look out the previous research into a finance system. So I said, "Oh, could you get those ready when you come up to the meeting?"
Yeah.
But
So
I have a problem with
that whole week of
Wednesdays, because if it's going to be cyclical,
yeah.
I gave up because I've had a regular meeting on a Wednesday for the last 10 years.
So I think we'll end the meeting
Yeah.
now.
End the meeting.
Yeah.
We're only talking about the next day.
Yeah.
So.
So